we always said, scratch is a winner. What is scratch as a winner? Like a scratch is you didn't make money, really, or you might have lost a little bit for paying a fee. But at the end of the day, it's information. Yeah. So it's okay. That's what our testing is it's critical information to allow you to pivot.
You're listening to Be Well by Kelly LeVeque. Adam Kadela is the co-founder of DexaFit and DexaFit DX, a former athlete and trader turned into health tech entrepreneur, husband, and father of 3. What began as a side project in 2011, bringing elite health tools to everyday people, has grown into DexaFit, a global network of clinics focused on the metrics that matter most for long-term health, including muscle and bone quality, visceral fat, and VO2 max. In 2019, Adam helped scale DexaFit into a decentralized platform now trusted by top athletes, physicians, and healthcare systems. And featured in Netflix, You Are What You Eat, today he leads DexaFit DX, an AI-driven effort to detect chronic disease earlier and more accurately. After years of testing wellness trends, Adam's core belief is simple. Without measurement and quality feedback, more effort leads to more error. He lives with his family in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, where his kids' natural approach to health continues to shape his own. This episode is brought to you by AG1, the one thing I never skip in my morning routine. You've probably heard me talk about AG1 before, but I really do take it every day. I mix it with cold water first thing in the morning, and it's just the easiest 30 seconds I give to my health. It supports my energy, digestion, immune system, and honestly, it helps me feel like I'm starting the day off on the right foot. What I love is that it fills any of my nutrient gaps. As someone who eats well, there are still days where I'm running around juggling mom life and work, and I know I'm not hitting every micronutrient target. AG1 gives me peace of mind that I'm getting what I need, and my gut definitely thanks me for it. And taste-wise, it's surprisingly smooth and refreshing. I've tried a lot of green powders, and AG1 is by far the easiest to drink. I've even gone a few days without while traveling, and I could totally feel the difference. A little less energy, a little more sluggish digestion. I really missed it. So if you're looking for a mid-year reset or just a daily habit that actually is sustainable, I can't recommend AG1 enough. It's one of the simplest things you can do for your health, and at less than $3 a day, it's a small investment with a big return. To make it easy, AG1 is giving my listeners a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So just go to drinkag1.com/bewell. That's drinkag1.com/BEWELL. Adam Kadela, the man who knows everything about DexaFit. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so you are a dad of 3. Mm-hmm. You are an ex-athlete. You have an autoimmune condition and once were a day trader, but somehow found yourself in the field of decentralizing access to DEXA. So can we talk a little bit about your background and what led you along the path to where you are today?
Absolutely. No. Where to begin? This is actually, I have to go back to around 2010. Mm-hmm. And two things happened around that time. it was a couple years out from playing. I played football, mm-hmm. and my whole life I was an athlete. Mm-hmm. And then I started working at a trading firm in downtown Chicago. Mm-hmm. Again, from being active and outdoors my whole life to now a desk jockey, had 8 computer screens in front of me. It was great. I loved it, mm-hmm. learned a ton, but at the same time, kind of missed, working with athletes, kind of leveraging all this knowledge that I had. And an old teammate of mine he'd retired. He played in the NFL for a few seasons and retired and opened up a sports performance center in Chicago and asked if I'd moonlight at night to help him train some of his guys from middle school up to pro level. Okay. And so while we were doing that, in parallel, I'd also had a thyroid condition since I was 18. I just kind of was given a pill. And I never once tried to figure out what does it even mean. Mm-hmm. And eventually that dose just kept going up and up and up. And there'd be times where in Chicago, you have what's called the L train. Yeah. And I had about 10, 12 minute L ride in the morning, get to work, I'd fall asleep. Wow. And I'd come home from work and I'd kind of fall asleep. Exhausted. So I was like, what's going on? But at the same time, I still was training like I was a linebacker or looked like a linebacker, but something's going on. And mm-hmm. so did some research at the time I discovered, wow, there's actually multiple causes of a thyroid condition. And, mm-hmm. Learn about Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, all these things. And I go, So I asked the doctor, I was like, hey, did we ever test to see if I have any of these? And
No.
they're like, no. And I go, well, could we?
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, came back, had Hashimoto's. And from there, I started just doing a deep dive, realized there was tons of stuff that I could do, could be doing naturally to maybe even mitigate it, reverse it, et cetera. And that kind of, I caught the bug. Like, let's see what else I can learn. Like, what can I do? And at the time, again, this is around 2010. I know paleo was becoming a thing. I used to read like Mark's Daily Apple
Heck yeah.
quite a bit.
Shout out to Mark Sisson.
It was one of his articles.
Where you at? Lauren Cordain.
Exactly. It was actually one of Mark's articles that tipped it off. I was like, wait a second. I have a thyroid condition. And then he mentioned all these things. And I go, I could be doing this. But it was, so then, like I said, I caught the bug. And it was like, well, how can I want to get some more tests, like instead of having to go to my doctor. And you couldn't really find that much. Another shout out is like, I think Wellness FX might have been one of the early ones that allowed you to do that. But, anyways, I found some practitioners that were, could order you labs and just started to learn. And again, so this was happening around the same time I was still, training athletes. And we had the idea with my buddy. We were like, hey, let's build out this kind of high-end sports lab for everyday people. Let's give them access to technology and testing that elite athletes are using, make it available to everyday people.
Yeah.
And, again, because, one way we like to think about it was you want to look at what those guys are doing. It's kind of like with technology innovation, like the military or those programs. That's where a lot of technology, a lot of the innovation happens. It's like whether it's the internet or GPS, and then it eventually will trickle down to the masses in a commercial use case. So it's like, that's kind of the idea. Like, all right, what are these guys doing? And a consistent theme we noticed was using DEXA for body composition assessments, along with VO2 max testing were the two primary ones.
Who at the time was doing this? What sparked you off? Obviously, you're looking at the pro athletes, but like, what were some of the best in class, like sports labs or teams that you thought were like, these are the pinnacle of athlete, like the best athletes in the United States, and we need to like get on board?
Well, one in particular, I know the Green Bay Packers, they've been using DEXA for a long time. I think they were probably one of the first ones. I think the Olympic Performance Center in Colorado was using it. Australia actually was probably on the forefront of using it, because at the time when we were doing this, you really couldn't get it commercially, except for at these sports labs or these pro teams had them. They weren't going to let anybody off the street come in. Yeah. And there was one guy in Canada who he was doing it, and we thought, hey, let's. I just reached out, and they were more than willing to share, and just it was as I said, it was just a passion project for the two of us to open it up. We knew a guy who had an extra space. I think it was about a 10 by 12 room, and just learned what we had to do and figured out how to build a website, all these things. We both had enough, downtime, and eventually he'd cover the days. I'd go from the Board of Trade and go to Chicago and do night, and just kind of did that for a long time. But to tie this into, again, how, with my trading background, to give a little bit of education about how that works to somebody who may not be familiar is, it was a high frequency trading firm. We built our own software. We connected to exchanges around the world. We traded almost just, all markets, all hours of the day. And again, as when you're making these trades, you need to have very precise pricing data. If you went to go, let's say you wanted to go buy on one exchange and sell on another the same product, and try to take advantage of the price discrepancy between the two. Right. And you go buy 98 and you want to go sell 100, you make $2. Well, if you go to sell at 100, but that price was wrong and you end up selling at 95, well, you just lost money. And that could add up quickly. And so while doing that in my day, like having very precise data, not trading on what was called stale prices, I'd then go to DexaFit and you get to meet people. Now, naturally, people coming into DexaFit to get a DEXA body composition scan or do a VO2 max test, they'd tell you kind of what they were doing, like what they were using, whether it was just the scale weight or something. And and eventually you're like, wow, it's like the equivalent of using stale pricing, or even wearables. This is when wearables were, counting your steps or just some of these other things.
Just like a Fitbit bracelet.
Yeah, and again, there's merit to all of them. I'm not going to say like don't use a wearable by any means. Right. It's just understand the context and what you're missing. And that was kind of, again, at the time, one, it was hard to get this testing. More importantly, the experience was awful. You would go in and it was, you're using, I think even some of the systems now, like we use Microsoft Word, Windows 7, just
Oh my gosh.
very, very ugly interface. You'd get these reports from the manufacturer that just a bunch of numbers in a table.
Yeah.
And when you're, charging $150, sometimes $300, and you're just sliding like 7 sheets of paper with a bunch of numbers, no definitions, it's not the best experience.
Right.
And especially if people, when they leave and they loved it when you explained it to them, but then they forgot it all.
Yeah.
And they call you again, or they lost their report.
Inactionable.
Again, it's inactionable. It's just it's an ugly experience. And so at the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, there's like, why is DEXA body composition, our visceral fats, our actual, muscle quality, our bone density, why is this not the bedrock, the foundation that every intervention is kind of verifying and validating? And that, to fast forward, because that was around 2019, that's when we formed DexaFit Inc. as it is today, which was more of a technology focus. Let's build the actual infrastructure. Let's build the software, the reporting, the insights that are, let's bring it into, people have their phones on them all the time. Like, when are people talking about this stuff? It's either at the gym or, at the, out on the weekend. Let's make it so they can actually show somebody when they're trying to explain what they just did.
Right.
And then they can have that reminder and all that stuff. And so that was why we formed DexaFit Inc., was to kind of build out this technology layer that interfaces on layers on top of these clinical grade diagnostic systems to provide just a profoundly better user experience and more insights that is more actionable for people.
Totally. Well, that's what the general population needs. I mean, let's take it all the way back though. So DexaFit really started in you had these like, you want to say like the pinnacle of like the best of the best teams and sports centers and Olympians and maybe a guy in Australia and a guy in Canada. Great. But most of the DEXA scans were happening in hospital for bone density issues. My mom has osteopenia. It's, for many women, it becomes an issue later in their life, and a broken hip or a fall can be the cause of mass amount of personal. I mean, it just becomes like a reason why people pass away, put in hospice. Like it's really scary to kind of think about that stuff. But again, it was only ever in the hospital. So can you talk to me about what DEXA is and what it gives you and how it works? Like, is it MRI technology? Is it CT technology? Is it X-ray? Like what is a DEXA scan, and what like data points does it kick out for the user or for the patient being scanned?
Sure. So a DEXA stands for dual energy X-ray absorptiometry.
Okay.
It's been FDA cleared for decades.
Okay.
I think it originally came on the market around the late 80s.
Okay.
There have been different iterations over the years. And its primary use case has always been bone densitometry, which is helping physicians diagnose osteoporosis, osteopenia. And so how does it work? It's about the size of this table right here. It's open air. You lay on it. It uses 2 energy beams, very low dose X-ray. It's the fraction of a chest X-ray. It's like equivalent of like a cross-country flight.
Okay.
And this arm just will pass over you one time. It's open air. So for those who might be claustrophobic from an MRI, nope. Again, you don't need there's no lead shielding, nothing that you need, given it's just such a negligible amount. And as I said, it passes over you one time. And it's about 7-8 minutes, depending on the system you're using. There's 2 main manufacturers, GE and Hologic. And when
I smile because I used to work for Hologic.
Oh, really?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So again, as you said, like you are right. Like bone density has been the primary use case. So there's different positions you'll use, but in around the 2000s, it started to be used significantly in research. And again, because it's also the gold standard of body composition analysis. And why is that? It's giving us significantly more detail than you could get from a lot of other modalities, unless you were to do a CT or MRI. But those aren't practical if you're trying to do a preventative test, or if you're just interested in general wellness and you want to understand important variables such as your lean mass, your fat mass, your bone density, your visceral fat, which is the fat stored around your organs. so, and then again, that's around when performance started to use it a lot as well. Because again, the amount of detail you get, the regional breakdown, when I say regional, left arm, left leg, right leg, understanding asymmetries, understanding, again, the visceral fat. We'll probably talk more about visceral fat. But that is when it really started to take off. And then it got into the performance. And now, fortunately, in the last couple of years, we are really starting to see it take off among physicians. We're starting to see a lot more physicians adopting it for longevity purposes and just general wellness. I also think, back to your point about like your mom, it's crazy to me, but the reason, right now, most women, it's whether I think what's called the USPSTF, United States Preventative Services Task Force. They're the agency that, it's the reason why like mammograms are recommended to women, over 40 every 2 years. They're the ones who more or less will say, when should you get something, which then implies when it's going to be covered or when doctors are referring. So women's usually it's like 65 and older, men it's like 70 and older. So to call it a preventative screening is kind of silly to me. I think the WHO actually does recommend a little earlier, around 40.
Okay.
But again, right now, it's not going to be covered unless your doctor refers you for a bone density scan, site-specific bone density scan, until, like I said, 65, unless you have some risk factors, if you're a woman, via menopause, then you might be able to get in a little bit earlier. So unfortunately, though, the way bone health is, really it's around 30 onwards is when you need to start tracking that to understand, especially if you have health history of it, a family history of it. And so that's one thing we've noticed as a use case now that DEXA's commercially, it's much more widely available and more awareness of what you can do with it. We're starting to see a lot of women, especially coming in, that are just using in the total body scan. There is a difference between the site-specific scan and the total body composition scan. So if any listener goes, if you want something strictly related to just your bone density, you always want to ask and verify, hey, do you do the site-specific scan versus if you do just, the body composition. The body composition will be valuable still, especially if you're younger, to get an idea of where do you fall. Is this something, is maybe a site-specific warranted? You can talk to your doctor about it. Or at least it's going to give you a data point to continue to track over the years as you reach, whether it's menopause, postmenopause, well before that 65, when it's too late to actually start intervening, which it's something you can intervene with. So that's one thing. We're about to launch a new initiative here to really raise awareness and make it have even more features available for especially women that are interested in bone health at all the DexaFit locations. So we'll have more to come on that, but
that's exciting.
Yes. So that's kind of the main difference. The scans more or less take the same amount of time. And again, you get a wealth of data from them.
My new amino acid supplements come in flavorless and lemon water, and they're flying off the shelves, and here's why. I have meticulously sourced these vegan fermented essential amino acids from Japan. I am so proud of this being made the Be Well way, with maximum quality and minimum ingredients. My flavorless is simply those vegan fermented essential amino acids from Japan. Our lemon water contains minimal ingredients of only organic lemon powder, organic citric acid, and organic monk fruit. No natural flavors, no artificial flavors, no artificial sweeteners, no emulsifiers, no additives. This is simply that nutrition targeted for your goals. If you want to give my Be Well protein or aminos a try, or restock it if you're already loving it, take advantage of my gift for podcast listeners. Code PODCAST10 is going to get you $10 off just for being a listener. Write it down and shop with me after you listen. As a mom and a clinical nutritionist, I'm always looking for clean, effective ways to support my boy's health. And that's why Hiya has been a favorite in our house. Most kids' vitamins are basically candy, loaded with sugars, dyes, and gummy additives. And that's what I don't want in my pantry. Hiya is totally different. It's a chewable vitamin made with 0 sugar, pressed with a blend of 12 organic fruits and veggies, and packed with 15 essential vitamins and minerals that support immune health, energy, brain function, and more. With your first order, you're going to get a reusable bottle and all these cute stickers so the kids can decorate it. Then each month, they send an eco-friendly refill straight to your door. And if your kids are picky about greens, Hiya now has a chocolate-flavored Daily Greens Plus superfood powder that you just mix with milk or a non-dairy option. And you've got a delicious drink packed with 55 plus whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Now, we've worked out a special deal for my listeners. You're going to get 50% off your first order. So just head to hiyahealth.com/Kelly. That's HIYAHEALTH.com/Kelly, spelled KELLY, to get your kids the full body nourishment they need to thrive. Well, I think in today's day and age, people are taking advantage of things like FSAs and HSAs. They're looking to, save their pre-tax dollars to invest in their health. And you have like companies like TrueMed that help you, like they're the middleman that help you get those approved. But I think about it, like I told you, like my mom had osteoporosis and now has osteopenia. And I think about like the muscle mass that it takes to squat down and like pick up my 2-year-old and be active with them and not to be laid up after I have 3 crazy little boys, but to not be super tired after a long day with her grandkids, I know that muscle mass is built like in our youth. I was so grateful to be to play club soccer and have my parents really push my sisters and I into sports when we were young, but like keeping that muscle mass on as we age, through 3 pregnancies and breastfeeding each kid at least 18 months. I'm still breastfeeding Julian. He's 20. He was 2 in May, so he's like 26 months old right now. Like I think we're like kind of towards the end here, but I've given away so many nutrients, whether it's like amino acids, fatty acids, like vitamin D, whatever, like all of the inputs that would hold my body together. I've given it away to my children for, it feels like 7. Sebastian will be 7 in October. Like it's been like an 8-year journey. So, DEXA to me is like a way to get that actionable information. I think also for women, weight is a mental thing. Working with clients for 12 years, I always prefer measurements. Like I'll get with them and I'll, use my measuring tape like a seamstress and talk about measurement changes more than weight changes, because weight can be discouraging for people, especially if they're like on a health journey and they start eating clean, upping their protein and lifting weights. And they're not seeing a change in the scale, but I can tell them measurement wise, we're seeing a body composition change. Like this is a way to get weight without, and that real tangible data without the discouragement that can come from being like, just like getting on a scale every day. What's really not giving you the data. So when someone comes into a DexaFit, 8 minutes, you said $150 to $300, that feels like, to me, not that big of an investment if you're looking to track it over multiple years. How often should people be getting a DEXA scan? And what does the reporting look like? What can people expect?
Okay. So in terms of, what to expect, the way I like to describe DexaFit testing. So when DexaFit testing, there's 3 primary or core tests at DexaFit. Even though DEXA's in our name, there's DEXA body composition.
Yeah.
You have your VO2 max test and you have an RMR test, your resting metabolic rate.
Okay.
I'd say out of those 3, all 3 are great and very actionable. The 2 at a minimum that I think everybody should at least do annually, at least every 2 years, just to understand, is your DEXA body comp and your VO2 max.
Okay.
Why is that? You're going to have one. Your VO2 max is it's considered the top predictor of all-cause mortality. Really, there is no upper limit as well. This has been validated for decades in research. Really greater risk from if you're below average, your VO2 max, your risk for disease, mortality, et cetera, is significantly higher even than other causes like smoking, like risk factors. So again, I know we talk about DEXA, it's definitely our most popular test. Again, it's really easy, but the VO2 max, I can't encourage enough for somebody to understand where they are. Like if you truly want to understand your preventative health risk, if you're a busy parent, you've got a bunch of kids and you don't have time to stay up to speed on everything or track labs and everything.
Yeah.
VO2 max. Next would be your body composition scan. So what is your goal? Some people will, what I like about it is it's a true proof of work, both VO2 max and your body composition scan. When I say proof of work, you can reduce your visceral fat, but you can't really improve. You increase your muscle quality, your strength. It's going to take time. Like you can't take a pill and then the next day be in the optimal range like you could for some lab tests, for instance. Like if you have low vitamin D or low testosterone and then you start supplementing that to me should not be kind of your benchmark to make your decisions. You want to understand kind of what are these? And it's going to take time to change that. So at a minimum, we recommend anywhere from 4 months, 3 to 4 months, 6 months. If you're really dialing in something brand new, whether it's a diet or training regimen, and you want to understand it's working, because you don't want to necessarily wait too long and find out it's not working.
Right.
You know, one story comes to mind. It was an older couple. This is about 12 years ago, and they were a sweet old couple that had a plan they wanted to follow. I think they wanted to follow Body by Science, if anybody remembers that.
Yeah,
it's a long time ago. Exactly. And they were very passionate about it. And they said, we'll be back. And they came back 1 year later to the day. And to your point about that scale weight, they got on the DEXA and they ended up losing lean mass and increasing fat mass. And so when they left, we'll be back sooner next time.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said about, depending on if you're using this to try to find exactly what works well for you and if it's working or not.
Yeah.
That 3-4 month range is kind of a sweet spot to allow your body to physiologically adapt.
Yeah.
But it's also not necessarily too long in case it's not
working.
Okay.
So if someone's, like, for example, you have access to this, obviously, because you started it and then you founded it and you made this available to everyone. Like, for example, with you or with female clients, I don't know if your wife does this or if she gets access to it as well, perks of being your wife. But what kind of diet, lifestyle, and fitness changes have you seen move the needle the most in regards to body composition changes? Because we know what we want. Everyone knows what they want to see. They want their bone density not to go down. They want their lean mass to go up. They want their visceral fat and overall body fat to go down. Like, what would you say are the biggest needle movers for that?
This might surprise some people. If there's one thing that DexaFit has done to me, it's very humbling. So what I mean by that is to rewind back to that journey that I took from the day I read that Mark's Daily Apple article.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've experienced this or if you know people who've experienced it, but when they go down that rabbit hole, they get very passionate about it. And if it works for them, they think everybody should be doing it. Yeah, they think everybody should be doing it. And they'll kind of talk about it. And you go through stages. And so DexaFit has been humbling to me in the sense that I have learned that all sorts of things will work.
Yeah.
In most situations, it's everybody's unique. I've seen people do polar opposite strategies that get great results. And so that's, to me, the beauty of this kind of test is it can help, it's true science in the sense of you can falsify something. Like, all right, I think this is going to happen if I do this. If you go into DexaFit, we're going to show you objectively, like, yeah, that did that, or no, it didn't. It's not ambiguous, where some, like in the space, will tell you, you should do this, you should do that. I'm like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of I've tried lots of different strategies over the years, and I've had success doing all these different things. So to me, that tells me there's something more important. A lot of times it's just doing something different. Like, it'll work until it doesn't.
Right.
And that's the whole point of this.
You adapt.
We're along with you on that journey. And every one of our DexaFit locations that are out there, they're run by phenomenal people. We have a very diverse group, from doctors to just wellness professionals and everybody in between, that they're all very knowledgeable, and they've all seen tons of people come through. So they can help be just great educators of, like, what are people doing, what seems to be working. And again, at the end of the day, we're a sample size of one, which is the point of this test. Is it's meant to show you, for you, like, is what you're trying to do working? And I can't encourage, like, you'll try all sorts of, like, that's the whole point, is just to continue to experiment and continue to adapt and validate it, more importantly. So I can't give you an answer as to what. I have my own strong personal beliefs about things that I think people should be doing. But as I said, I've seen people do opposite and have great results. So that's the fun part about DexaFit. Like, what you have at your disposal is, again, when you go in for your appointment, if you have an idea, you have somebody there that's going to be able to, that they've probably met somebody who's done it too. They can answer questions about it. If you're interested in learning about what people are doing or what is working, they have answers about that as well.
Yeah.
Because that is, That is truly, anybody who tells you, in my opinion, that this is the Holy Grail, this is what you need to do, to be skeptical.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not right, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's just, you just have to have an open mind and realize that everybody's metabolism's unique, and the goal is to, really, ultimately to me, the goal is to get to the point where you don't even have to think about it.
Right.
Like your body, you reach a point where everything's just so dialed in that you don't have to stay up to speed on, what supplement stack should I take, or worried about, oh no, I'm going on vacation. Do they have like a certain specialty store that I have to get this food? Or if you have to go to a holiday with family and you've got a family's, traditional meal, and you're, oh no, I'm not going to eat that.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what I've learned again over the years, because I've seen it, I've been through it. You got to realize like that stress alone can actually have a more negative effect on it and so that's also the beauty of the test is once you reach that level and you see that, you're like, I'm actually pretty good. I'm okay. I don't need to worry about if I'm exposed to something. Right. So it's, how do you get there? Well, again, I would, working with people like yourselves, like your resources are great. Like all of our DexaFit locations, we work with a lot of wellness professionals as well that refer out to DexaFit. And that's been a big part of how we've always wanted to position ourselves, is we're kind of that scoreboard, that safe space, so to speak, where, which I think, we were featured on the Netflix documentary, You Are What You Eat last year, which again, I thought anybody who saw that, like the aftermath, there's a bit polarizing because you have the plant-based people up against kind of the meat, whatever. This, that,
like vegan versus carnivore,
like, whatever. But at the end of the day, we're just kind of like, hey, here's what the data is. Like, and again, it's I'm not gonna say it's complicated, but I'm just saying everyone's unique in that respect, and that's you have to have fun with it and be like, okay, let's see if I can move that needle here. Like for instance, you asked about me. So again, if you were to go through, if you go to, we'll talk about the report now. So if you go in and you get a DEXA scan, again, you'll lay on the table. It'll be about 7-8 minutes. Just go over you, and then afterwards you'll get our reporting, which is again a lot more user friendly, and it will provide a complete breakdown of your body composition distribution. So why do I say body composition distribution? Not just body fat or body fat. For years, if you go to the gym, like, well, what's your body fat percent? It's kind of changing now, but for a long time, people would rely on body fat. I don't really place too much emphasis on that, given the metrics we have at DexaFit. And I'll tell a story early on. It was a Saturday. 2 guys happened to come in about 2 appointments apart from each other. It's about 2013 or so. And both were around 9% body fat, I think. Okay. And so if I say 9% body fat to you, you think, wow, that's
ripped.
Really, exactly. You say ripped, that's really good.
Like to wash my clothes on your abs. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So 9-10% body fat. And you're like, one guy, yes, like this guy was one of the best reports I've ever seen. Yeah. If you look at it.
Total athlete.
Yeah, like 0 pounds of visceral fat is what's called your android gynoid ratio. AG ratio was like 0.6, which is really low.
And what can you explain what that is?
Yeah, like your android fat, that's kind of right around your torso area. Gynoid, that's like an apple shape. Okay. The gynoid, that's like your hips, your butt, like pear shape. Women will women will carry more around the gynoid. Men. But the android region, because of the visceral fat, that's the one that's correlated to more
heart
disease
attacks,
risks, like every almost cardiometabolic condition you can think of, from cardiovascular, coronary artery disease risk, diabetes, even some cancers. So that's why visceral fat is really, fortunately, starting to a lot more awareness about it. Yeah. But again, so back to this guy, his ALMI, which we'll get into, his appendicular lean mass index, was very high. So what does that mean? When we say the ALMI, that's your arms and your legs. So sometimes we'll look at that because that's a good sign of, when I say that proof of work, you've put in the work to build muscle. Yeah. If it's in your arms and your legs, and again, it's based off relative to your height. His is very high. So across the board, he probably had one of the best results I've ever seen.
So that means, like, instead of his fat being like centrally located around organs, it's like distributed.
Yeah, he had none around his organs. Yeah. So, which is great. That's a very, I just don't, you don't really want any of that. I call it the nefarious fat around your organs, causing all sorts of mischief if you don't pay attention to it. And jump ahead now, I think it was like an appointment or two later, this other guy comes in. Again, he was like, I think he had 9, 10% body fat, very low. These are just kind of classic skinny fat. Thin, like what is it? The thin inside fat, or no, I might have it backwards. But he had very low ALMI, not a lot of lean mass, a couple pounds of visceral fat. And bone density was on the total BMD was on the lower end, which T-score. That was on the lower end. So again, but if he's at the gym, he's like, I'm like 9, 10% body fat. And so you're like, oh man, what do you do? Like, well, again, you don't necessarily want to
emulate that because if it's all around his organs and
low bone density is a little bit lower, not a lot of lean mass. So to your point that you raised earlier, like, why do we want to care about this earlier? Well, it's a lot like retirement. Like if you're going to save for retirement, ideally you're starting in your 20s, 30s, into your 40s. So when you're older. Same thing with your lean mass, with your muscle. It's only, I'm not saying you can't when you're older. It's going to take some pharmacological intervention probably, which that comes with trade-offs. And what I mean by that is like if you're like in your 50s, so you want to use your 20s or 30s and your 40s to really focus on building that. So again, why? Because we want to make sure, like I know my goal is like if I'm 80, 90, if I die, I want to be falling off a ladder because I can fix a shingle, not because I can barely get out of a chair on my own. And so again, 20s, 30s, 40s, that's when you want to start building that. That's when you can, that's when it's easiest. That's when you can. One of our new metrics that we're coming out with a new report here in the near future, we have our, we call our ALMI cliff. So it will actually project out for you, based on where you are now with your muscularity, your muscle health. 10 years from now, if you did nothing but just lost like 1%,
the average
percent
or per
year, where would you fall? Relative to your risk for sarcopenia, which is muscle, low muscle mass, which carries a lot of risks as well. And we'll show you that. So you can get it. So I've found to a lot of people that's been a nice, motivator to be like, oh, wow, I really got to dial that in. And so to that point, like with the report, like we show you all of that. So we say like your distribution, how are all of these top metrics, which we do look at body fat because it is still important, but more importantly, your lean mass, your ALMI, your FFMI, your fat-free mass index, your fat mass index as well. We'll come back to visceral fat.
Can you break down what each of those are? What each of those are, those top metrics, and you just used acronyms, but like what are they and what are they predictors of?
So we'll probably always focus more on the visceral fats because that's still to me one of the top ones. But then the LMI and the FFMI, those really are just kind of showing you, in short, like kind of your muscularity, like your build relative to your frame. So I mean, like it takes your total lean mass for the LMI, like of your arms and your legs, and divides it by your height squared, and it will show that, because you could imagine you could have two people that have 200 pounds of lean mass. If one's 5'5" and other's 6'5", it means a different thing. So that's kind of what that.
The 5'5" guy is jacked.
Yes, so that's kind of what that does. Now, I will say I'm excited. We do have some. I'm going to say it is still very important to know, but there are some limitations to it in terms of strength is still going to be the ultimate predictor, like how strong you are. And we do have some research in the pipeline. We do a lot of research as well, given the extensive data set that we have on a new muscle quality algorithm that we're developing. So that's kind of our goal in the coming months, hopefully to dial up every DEXA system now to where you can get an understanding of how does your muscle quality compare to others versus just looking at that lean mass. But really what most people, like for me, where I am, as I'm a former football player, so this is another, you brought a point, as a mom of young boys, and I've got I have 2 girls and a boy. For parents, it's really important in childhood to really expose your children for the first couple of decades to stress, like to stress their bone, to signal to the body to build that, because those are pivotal periods, making sure they're avoiding things like smoking or things that can impact their bone development, because really your peak period is up until your late 20s, like 30.
Yeah.
And so that's why that is an important part. I'm fortunate that I happen to do two of the sports that it may not necessarily be the best for head trauma and all that stuff,
brain health.
but I do. Yeah, I played football my whole life, and then I got into jiu-jitsu and judo
Okay.
in my 20s, and to do that to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Great for bone health. Maybe not so much for other injury risks, but that I've never had to worry about my T-score, bone density, or my muscular. I've spent so much time in a weight room most of my life. I don't really lift that much anymore, but it's mostly because I think I built up a very large reserve, to the point a couple of years ago, I did a pretty big recomposition, went from about 230, 235 down to 205. And
That's
so
huge.
If you look at my baseline, my report, you'll see it's like, it was a significant drop of lean mass, but the ALMI barely budged.
Yeah.
It came down. So that, to me, if you're going through a report with somebody and somebody's worried about, because normally we advise, if you're doing a recomposition of any kind or going for weight loss, you really don't want to lose too much lean mass, which it will happen depending on your starting point. But that's the value of understanding these other metrics about your lean mass. So you can actually see, like, all right, did I drop maybe too far? And do I need to go refocus on muscle building again? So like for me, when I saw that, I lost a lot of lean mass, but my LMI was still in the top percent, like upper percentile there. That I was like, okay. But so now my focus now is visceral fat. I carry a little bit more than I'd like. I think I finally got below 1, or I'm about 1, because normally 0 is ideal. Yeah. But everybody, again, why you store visceral fat, it's a number of reasons. I think it's a number of things. I mean, I had like I said, I don't know like what it caused it, but I think at one point 1.5 pounds, maybe closer to 2 pounds. And again, at the same time, like if on the surface though, I still looked like an athlete. Yeah, you didn't see that. So that's been my main motivator for a long time now, is like, what can I do to try to get that down? And so like my last test that I just did like a month or two back, I finally saw that budge. And it's, which is great, because when you work with, like I said, a lot of our DexaFit locations, they've got resources for you. If you are seeking support to work with you, they'll understand, they'll know exactly how to navigate that report to potentially personalize and kind of identify what your goal might be. Yeah. If that makes sense.
What were some of the things you did to lower your visceral fat from 1.5 to like 1 or below?
So the biggest thing that in all my years that I've noticed the biggest change in everything, all qualities of life, not even just my DexaFit result, would be, a long time ago, like I said, when I lived in Chicago, this is in my 20s, lived the Chicago lifestyle and worked a very stressful job, a trading job, very stressful. Worked a night shift for a long time, traded European hours, which this is my 20s, where I was completely ignorant to circadian biology, circadian rhythm, and knowing the impact of, I'd go to the gym at 11:30 at night and I'd lift still like I played football, and then I'd go into work, put on a pot of coffee at 2 in the morning, work, go home at 10, 11, try to sleep, still go out at like socialize. And again, so I did some labs and had one consult that I did is like, yeah, man, you're with your Hashimoto's and other things, you got to do something. And so I always believe like you can't get well in the same environment you got sick in. Yeah. And so to me, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to move to another zip code or anything like that. But for me, it kind of did. Because again, I was living in a city, total biological mismatch with my lifestyle. That's ultimately kind of what led to, really making a push for DexaFit. But then also I now live near the ocean in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And so to me, over the years, just really dialing in my circadian rhythm, like never missing a sunrise, trying to get outside, and diet is definitely, how I eat definitely has helped. I still try to eat just, years ago, I think I read, again, I'll do another throwback for you. This is throwback episode.
It's like a Chris Kresser book.
Yeah. Well, I did do a consult with Chris Kresser a long time ago. I think it was like 2011 or so. It was Charles Poliquin. He said, if it ran, walked, swam, came out of a tree or came out of the ground, it's good to go.
Have at it.
And a lot of people, shop the outer aisle, all that stuff. So more or less, that's kind of still where I am. Like, it's pretty simple at the end of the day. Like, I think most people know, especially if you're an adult and you're a parent, like, you know what you
Less
should be eating.
processed foods.
Less processed food, all that stuff. So now, am I, in a perfect world, would you eat local and seasonal and all that stuff? Ideally, it's, especially with 3 little kids, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
So to me, just trying to eat as real food as possible, and especially within eating windows have been helpful for me. Like, I don't really miss breakfast anymore, and try to eat while the sun's up. And those 2 things it's been a staple for me for a long time that I think has had the biggest traction. But, really just dialing in, understanding, being aligned with our more natural environment versus, as I said, I think I saw an episode you had, I forget his name, is the doctor talking about the suprachiasmatic nucleus and blue light and all that stuff. I mean, when I look back on my lifestyle.
Andrew Huberman, first episode? Maybe.
It was a doctor. It was a doctor. I forget who it was. Well, anyways, and I look back on like what I was doing. I mean, 8 screens of just blue light blasting you at all hours in the middle of the night, all that stuff just sends a lot of confusing signals to your body and causes a lot of issues. So I think just correcting that has been the biggest thing.
Yeah. I'm thrilled to introduce a brand I truly trust for anyone starting their journey to parenthood. It's called Wenatal. As a nutritionist, my number 1 recommendation for anyone trying to conceive or who's expecting is always to ensure your nutrient status is on point. And that starts with high-quality prenatal supplements. The truth is, many prenatal vitamins out there use ingredients that aren't bioavailable, meaning your body can't fully absorb or use them. Even with key nutrients like vitamin D, many formulas don't pack enough of a punch to make a real impact. And that's why I'm thrilled to share Wenatal with you. Their prenatal vitamins are carefully crafted with bioavailable ingredients like folate, choline, and iron to support both mom's health and baby's development. And here's something special. Wenatal offers a prenatal formula for men too. Wenatal for Men contains essential nutrients like zinc and CoQ10 to support sperm health and overall vitality. It's all about laying the right foundation for your family. Every ingredient is clean, science-backed, and third-party tested to ensure you're giving your growing family the absolute best. And here's an amazing offer for you. When you start any Wenatal prenatal subscription, you'll get a free 30-day supply of Wenatal's omega-3 DHA Plus fish oil valued at $34.95. So visit wenatal.com/Kelly today to claim your free omega-3 DHA Plus while supplies last, because your family deserves the best from the very start. This episode is sponsored by Vuori, my absolute go-to for activewear, loungewear, and effortlessly combined comfort, style, and performance. Whether I'm working from home or working out, Vuori has me covered. Now let me share a few of my current favorites right now. Right now, I'm living in my Vuori Performance joggers, my long sleeve Halo crew neck, my Halo Performance top, and these pieces are perfect for lounging and being able to go to a quick errand or school drop-off. The Halo Performance jogger is my everyday essential. The fabric is incredibly soft. Seriously, it feels like butter on your skin, and they're part of Vuori's Dream Knit collection, which means they're made with ultra-soft, lightweight fabric with relaxed fit, 4-way stretch, moisture-wicking properties. They're perfect for everything from low-impact workouts to just chasing my boys around the house. So paired with the Halo top and the long sleeve Halo crew neck, I've got the perfect combo for comfort and style that I can wear all day long. And here's the best part. Vuori is offering a special deal for my listeners. Get 20% off your purchase. So go to vuori.com/Kelly to snag this deal, experience the comfort, and let me know what you think. I will say, like, in my years of working with clients one-on-one, I have had the OBGYNs and the night nurses that are in the hospital setting under those big LED lights that have really stubborn weight loss issues, and we can't turn them around. And I would say that population is probably the hardest to move the needle with. I feel like it's an uphill battle to the point where, what are they supposed to do? They need to be fueling while they're awake during those hours. They're using caffeine and other chemicals to keep their body awake, whatever it is that they're, relying on, energy drinks, coffee, nicotine, I don't know, but that was always so, so difficult. And it for some, it came to the hard conversation of how can you get on day shift? Like, how can you limit hours? Is this making you happy? Because this is clearly making you sick. And when people aren't feeling well, a lot of times it infiltrates the rest of their life and they don't love what they're doing because of it. So, I mean, that's like preaching to the choir. That was always like a really tough population to like see changes with. And I love that you say that you eat breakfast, because I think there's still I don't work with as many men, but there's still a population of the males that I work with that think that, coffee, intermittent fasting, and all of that is serving them really well. But unfortunately, a lot of times it lends itself to overeating large meals late night that may include like also dinners with clients and alcohol, and it all kind of compounds on itself. And that's what I think like I love so much about the DEXA, and we'll jump into VO2 max and metabolic rate after this. But just to have like the real numbers for them, because they may not be seeing changes, but visceral fat might be increasing, lean mass is decreasing, and it's this like slow creep, but towards type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and those all cause mortality issues that you were talking about earlier. So I'm so glad that you shared that. I think I
was one of those guys a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's how I first got into intermittent fasting. I think it was around like 2012, and I skipped breakfast and all that. Then that's when I started to learn more about circadian rhythm and its impact on health and wellness, and kind of was like, well, why don't we flip that? I'll see breakfast. And I definitely noticed a big difference. It's again, that also helps. It's what's called like a Zyderberger that will help tell your body like, hey, it's
use the
daytime.
fuel.
Like,
it's daytime. Let's go.
So I think more people would be well served just to switch it, eat when the sun's out.
Yeah. Seriously, I can tell you, like, I think there were a few articles that I was interviewed for where all I said was, if I could get people to have a breakfast, lunch, and a light dinner, and if you wanted to intermittent fast, that you did it in the evening, like finish your last meal at 5:00 if you want to have those like hours. It's just so much less stressful on the body, and you're at a place where you've fully digested your food before sleep. You're able to get all of that lymphatic cleansing and true like natural body detox. It's just like the best. So I'm sure like the regular offenders are like, oh, sleep well, like maintain your proper circadian biology, eat protein,
which will help you sleep well,
eat whole foods. Like all of those things seem to be like, it's the basics. Like if we can get the basics right, your DEXA is going to improve.
Yeah.
So nitty gritty, VO2 max, what does that test look like? What is the client experiencing? And then resting metabolic rate, how does that work? Like, how do we get the results? What's actionable?
Absolutely. So your VO2 max is, as I said, it's been prominent in sports labs for a long time. It's considered one of the top predictors of all-cause mortality. I won't lie, I won't sugarcoat it. It's not an easy test.
Yeah.
What it's doing is it's measuring your oxygen utilization, more or less how efficiently does your body process oxygen during work. You can, elite athletes will be in the 70 to 80 milliliters for kilograms per minute, based on your body weight. So what it is you put a mask on, you get on a treadmill or a cycle ergometer, and what you'll do is you'll get a warm up. You want to make sure you warm up pretty well, and we'll just a slow, gradual push up, and we're going to try to push you to your max. And so it can take, ideally around 12 minutes, 15 minutes or so. And what you get from that is, again, the VO2 max. Like that's the number you want at a minimum. If you are in the upper, top 75%, there's really not much you need to work. I'm not going to go into kind of the literature. I don't remember off the top of my head. There's plenty of people out there that have talked about it and do a much better job of breaking down what the research has found. But if you are in that top quartile, there's not too much you probably even need to worry about. Like if at a minimum, if you couldn't do another test, like if you couldn't get labs, if you couldn't do, maybe some cancer screenings would be valuable. And then you're in that upper quartile, like you're pretty good shape.
Okay.
And they've even found that I think the risk reduction, if let's say you're in the bottom quartile and you move to even just above average or even just below average, it's almost a 50% reduction in your risk for mortality and other diseases. So again, can't emphasize enough how valuable that test is. What else do you get though? A lot of endurance athletes will utilize it. In all athletes, you can get value from it. You'll get your heart rate zones, zone.
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of your listeners probably heard of zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4. That zone 2 is that sweet spot training. You'll get your ventilatory thresholds, which are those transition points between fat utilization versus, creeping into, more carbs, so if you are, depends on your goal. Like if you're an athlete, you can, depend on your training type, a lot of coaches will use that data to help optimize your training and your recovery to make sure you're not training and you're not pushing yourself in a zone for too long as part of your training and overtraining. For the everyday person who's just, all right, what can I do with this data? Well, one, just knowing that and tracking that over time will be valuable. But two, if you are looking to train, you can dial workouts in to improve, both to improve your VO2 max, which should be the goal.
Right.
So I know a popular training method is, zone 2. That's a lot of people talk about that. So what that means is to build a high VO2 max, you want to have, and that's the peak of a pyramid. To have a very tall peak, you want to have a wide base. And so that's where I think Dr. Peter Attia talks a lot about that. You want to build that wide base. You do that, via zone 2 training. That doesn't mean that's the only one you do. You still need to improve that VO2 max. So you train interval training. So that's when you walk out the door, you'll do, again, it's about a 12 to 15 minute test. You will have a mask on. It measures your oxygen intake and CO2 exhale. And then when you're done, you'll get a report that shows you exactly kind of where you fall. You'll see how you compare to your peers. You'll see how you compare, based on the research in terms of what quartile you're in to get an understanding of risk factors. And you'll get your zones in case you want to, and some general recommendations for training, within those zones to improve them. And as I said, we have resources available if you want to have somebody really dial it in for you. Then the other test, the resting metabolic rate test, that one's easy. That one is just about like taking a 12-minute nap. You'll lay down and same mask that you wear for the VO2 max test, you'll lay down, get relaxed, and you're just breathing. And all that's getting is an understanding of your resting metabolic rate. How many calories do you burn at rest? Just living. And
how does that compare to something like an InBody or some of the stuff that you might get at like a local gym?
So we're saying when you get an RMR from doing an InBody test?
Yeah.
That is just based off taking I think they'll either use just your lean mass or your weight, and they just plug it into a formula.
Got it.
And spit it out. So again, there's, like I said, we have a lot of people that use InBody that come into DexaFit. I'm not saying
of course.
There's still like smart scales, all that stuff. At the end of the day, whatever you're using, as long as it's motivating you to make better lifestyle decisions to improve your health, I'm not gonna say don't do it. So the people that come in with like their InBody, they'll always calibrate it kind of their DEXA scan just to get a feel for, they might see it changing and they want to get an idea of what it actually did, because you don't get as much detail. It's a lot more variable. But in terms of the RMR especially, you're just using, there's a couple equations that are out there that they'll plug in numbers and give you kind of your RMR from there. So this is a direct kind of measurement of what is your baseline RMR, and a lot of people will use that differently. We'll also get you kind of your respiratory exchange ratio, which that will.
What's a respiratory exchange ratio?
That's more or less showing kind of the difference of oxygen and CO2 intake and exhale, and depending on where you may fall at resting, give you an idea if you're more of a fat burner at rest, or mixed burner, or sugar or carb burner. So.
And can people have an impact on making a change there?
So again, I don't want to say, and this is again one of those humbling experiences that I've had with DexaFit over the years, is you don't want to, what is it called? Goodhart's law. Like you don't need to make claims. Yeah. You don't want to hyper focus on, you want to use that as a signal, because you're going to be doing, if anything, that's the last thing you should be focusing on. If you're getting DexaFit testing, you should be primarily focused on visceral fat
and lean body
muscle
mass,
quality, bone density, and in your VO2 max. As I said, you will use the RMR as a tool to help you. If you, again, this is where I've learned as well, if you are a calorie counter and you want to really monitor that, you can use that. So it's really it's complementary to your DEXA scan, I would say, more so than anything else. Like you can get a feel like, I'm trying to build lean mass, but my RMR just went down low. I might be under eating.
Yeah.
And so that's a valuable signal. and then also to just kind of see how it's changing. So I always encourage using it complementary with kind of your DEXA scan. Is probably the biggest.
So you just made like a really good point that I want you to clarify. So let's say your RMR is low and you just said I might be under eating. So for most women, if they get an RMR and it's like you burn 1,300 calories a day, then they go, oh my goodness, I need to be eating 1,000 calories a day. Can you talk to me about how someone might be under eating and how eating can play a role in supporting getting their resting metabolic rate up?
Well, everything at the end of the day, it's an energy balance equation.
Right.
So what I've found is, and this goes to your point, especially I've seen it with women, that's why obsessing over your scale weight is potentially detrimental.
Super detrimental. Say that again, louder.
Very detrimental. I can't tell you how many times we've seen women come in that are frustrated.
Live and die by the scale.
Yeah, the scale hasn't budged, but then you show them the result and you're like, oh, wow, I lost fat. That's great. But they also increase lean. So again, a good visual to think about to tie this together with why we want lean mass is like a pound of lean mass versus a pound. I'm not doing that riddle. Like what weighs more, a pound of?
I know. Whenever someone's like, a pound of muscle weighs more, I'm like, a pound is a pound. Pound is a pound. It's the size.
It's more the visual.
Yeah.
Think of a pound of muscle would be like a hockey puck.
Yeah.
So think of the size of a hockey puck versus like a fluffy football.
Yeah.
That's a pound of fat.
Yeah. I always say like you buy like a lot of my clients buy like, lean ground beef. I'm like, you see that it's like a square brick.
Yeah.
And basically like your kid's Nerf football is a pound of fat.
I like that too.
It's like if you put 5 pounds of Nerf all over your body versus 5 pounds of lean mass, like it's a completely different visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, like using that RMR, like if you see that, that's one, you'll also see kind of like, where you are, and you use that as feedback.
Yeah.
One thing I'm just big on is you need to have strong beliefs weakly held.
Yeah.
When you're going down this path. Because, and I've had strong beliefs weak, like it's a running joke with my wife because she's like, oh, what are you going to be doing like next year?
What's new this week?
Yeah.
Babe?
And again, it's just because like I'll go deep into it. I'll try it. And then did it work? Nope. All right, let's move. Try something else. And always, that to me is how, and again, that was a lesson my whole life from trading. Like the idea was, we always said, scratch is a winner. What is scratch as a winner? Like a scratch is you didn't make money, really, or you might have lost a little bit for paying a fee. But at the end of the day, it's information.
Yeah.
So it's okay. That's what our testing is it's critical information to allow you to pivot. So using if you have that metabolism, it's going to be a number of things can affect that.
Yeah.
And so having that alongside how you feel, how your body composition is changing, your cardiorespiratory endurance, all of that, they all work together with other stuff too. Like I said, I'm not saying don't use a wearable if it's motivating you and it's helping you do the things that are going to be changing those numbers accordingly. But I still always fall back. To me, my ultimate goal with DexaFit would be where you your base layer, kind of like the Swift protocol, the HTTPS. That's the protocol layer that no matter what your intervention is, you're starting with a DexaFit test, DexaFit testing. Because you need to know, if you're going on a GLP, you need to have a DexaFit test. You shouldn't just do it with a scale or BMI or anything like that. You need to, and so that falls back on the true proof of work metrics. And it's really hard to game it. If your VO2 max is in the below average, you can't come back in a month by just taking something and it's going to improve like you could if you started supplementing hormones or whatever. You actually have to put in the work. Same thing with now this is the beauty of the test as well. Some people could say, well, I could take steroids and build my lean mass. Well, you're right, you could. That's, again, the beauty of the test is we'll see that. And we have evidence of it where you could see, we could speculate maybe somebody did because we saw a significant lean mass gain. Well, guess what's going to happen? That visceral fat might have creeped up. If you're playing, and again, this comes back from my finance background, your body is a complex system. It's an economy. Same thing if you look at our economy and you've got the Federal Reserve manipulating interest rates. it's a complex system. You can try to predict what's going to happen, but there's a lot of unintended consequences that could happen. Same thing if you're trying to play central planner with your body.
Right.
It's going to show up probably somewhere. There's trade-offs to everything. And so that's what, if you take a GLP, for instance, you might have rapid weight loss and you might lose some visceral fat, which is great, but you're probably going to lose lean mass. There's studies have shown you're going to lose a lot of lean mass. You're going to potentially affect your BMD. Yeah. So that's why, again, not saying yes or no, because some people really do probably need it if they're not going to, they just need that. Then as long as you get that jump start, but you need to be monitoring it to know, oops, I overshot. My lean mass is pretty low. If I do nothing for 10 years, I'm going to be below what we call the ALML cliff. I'm going to be falling off that cliff.
You're not going to be functioning the way you want
exactly
in old age.
Exactly. So,
are there specific times in life where you feel like, I love this stuff. I do have wearables. I probably wear my Oura Ring the most because it syncs with natural cycles and I'm able to track my ovulation and all of that. I also like the temperature check for I have 3 little germ babies that come home from school and I'm like, who sneezed? And it can predict also when I'm getting sick, which I really love. I used to check it a lot more for sleep, but I pretty much can gauge now. And I have a boring life because I have 3 young children, I pretty much have my sleep dialed most of the time unless someone wakes up in the middle of the night and ends up, needing help, which is definitely part of
that's our youngest right now
yeah. It's part of being a parent, right? Which is
got to be fun to track that.
Yeah. So
does it tell you you're a parent?
Yeah. It's hey, you should not work out today. And I'm I have a young child. Are you going to tell me that every day? Yeah. I'm less worried about it. I more use it for those reasons. But are there any wearables that you think are supportive or helpful, adjunct to a DEXA? Or are there any times in life where you think, I'm all on board. What I was going to say is I'm all on board. I feel like I would DEXA every 3 to 4 months or at least twice a year just to track and make sure, am I holding on to my lean muscle mass? Am I staying? They're just motivating. It's just motivating for me more than anything. And I also like data. I like to be my own little lab rat and see what happens and what's working, what's not. But are there any times specifically if someone isn't going to be able to be that consistent that you think are important for them to start to track or a good transition time to think about tracking? And then are there any wearables that you think are good adjuncts to that type of a cadence with the DEXA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great question. So I've always, to me, DexaFit I've always viewed it, long-term goal as kind of that decentralized, democratized access to this clinical grade data as the benchmark, as the baseline. Decentralized in the sense that we're all going to be learning from each other.
Right.
We're all sample sizes of 1. Everybody's going to be doing all sorts of different things, and we're going to be able to see objectively what is getting the best results. Now, I will say we are doing a lot of research. We have a very extensive data set. We've got hundreds of thousands of DEXA scans and VO2 max tests, and we also have a lot of data about what people are doing. So we're in the process of really trying to learn as much as we can and see and answer that question for you. The way I'll answer how I kind of view it is in terms of if you had a pyramid, DEXA testing, that's that base layer. Because ultimately the goal should be to move those. Because if you improve your muscle mass, your muscle quality, if you improve your BMD, if you're in the top quartile, top 75th percentile of muscle quality, VO2 max, visceral fat, and bone density, you have a very solid trajectory. I had my kids a little bit later. I want to have grandkids. I don't want to be frail and not able to play with them and lift them up and do all sorts of things. So to me, that's my main driver now. The next layer up, yes, still use your scale. Get a smart scale. Use your wearable, and it's still information.
Yeah.
So in terms of a favorite, I don't personally use one, and we have users that use Apple Watches, Oura Rings, Whoop, all of that. And a lot of everybody I talk to, it is ultimately that sample size of 1. And is it helping you make better decisions? Is it motivating you to stick with what you're trying to do? Because that is ultimately what matters. And so I can't necessarily say yeah, you should just go get one and use it. If that's going to help you, then please do it. So it's kind of like, that's a lesson I learned early on when somebody would come into DexaFit and they might have been like, oh, I got a scale to weigh my food and I'm going to be taking this. And maybe I was like, oh, that's dumb. I mean, I'm not going to say that because to me, that person's, they're way ahead of the game compared to most people that are not even thinking about this and making poor decisions. Like, you need to encourage that, because what's going to happen is that person is going to be doing that. They're probably going to see positive results because it's in their consciousness now. So then they're going to come back. And then that lesson I told you earlier, it works until it doesn't. Or they're just going to be like, well, what else can I do? Because they get that dopamine hit of, wow, I made changes. Like, what else can I do? How can I be better? And then that's how you go down that rabbit hole. And so that's how I personally, that's my stance on wearables is,
do what motivates.
See it, try it. If you think, if you know somebody who told you it worked really well, and, give it a try. See if it works for you. Yeah. And that to me, that's kind of my view. I would still say, like, your ultimate goal when you go, and it depends on where you are in this journey. So to tie this into visceral fat again, I like to think all of us, like, if you can just visualize right now, like, I have a rain barrel right now. Yeah. Like, my torso is a rain barrel. And like a little head poking out. And so when I say a rain barrel, some people are, I don't know, God sprinkled something on them as a kid and, like, they just got phenomenal genetics. And that when they go out in the day, they're accumulating sludge. Yeah. Just whether it's through microplastics, phthalates, seed oils, pollution, all that stuff. Just, you're going to encounter it. You can't, we didn't evolve as statues. Yeah. So the difference between that person who is just, I don't know whether genetically blessed or whatever, that rain barrel may fill up. By the end of the day, when they go to bed, they sleep well, the fairy comes in and just drains it completely. Yeah. And they start the next day like that. Some of us, unfortunately, and I like to think of visceral fat that way, that visceral fat is like, we start our day with maybe a quarter filled. Yeah. And it's, so naturally, as we're accumulating throughout the day or the weeks, that starts filling up. And at night, when we go to sleep, we maybe only clear out half of it. So the next day we start. And again, that's how I like to visualize that as that visceral fat. And eventually if throughout that tips over, that's when problems happen. That's when you get chronic diseases. That's when you're not feeling well. You have all those issues. So that is how I like to think about this, is the goal is dialing in to the point where your rainbow gets cleared out, which, you get that visceral fat down, your muscle quality's up, which again has more benefits than just strength and protection for your bones. I'm talking about insulin sensitivity and glucose disposal and a number of things. Same thing with your bone density. When you have all those things dialed in, the ultimate goal is to not have to worry about this, not have to worry about that Amazon order getting on time with your supplement bottle, or not having to worry about what does that ring say. The goal is like, wow, my body just tells me I feel good. I can recover. I can eat that traditional meal at the holiday and not worry about it, and focus instead on, like, everything else in life. Like, you've got 3 kids, I've got 3 kids. Like, to me, I still have to. I mean, there's still things unfortunately, just modern life is out to get us. I think. Like, it just really is. Whether it be hey, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Maybe it's not a conspiracy to do it that way, but that's just where we are. So you do need to be conscious of it. But ultimately, that's kind of like my goal, is where I don't even have to, like, worry about this anymore. Like, everything is just, it's at the back of my mind, and can focus on all that energy goes towards whether the kids or whatever it is. So
pouring it into your passion, whether it's your family or your business or personal health and well-being. Yeah, I think about muscle mass as flexibility. Like, I really think about it as flexibility for my clients when it comes to those, like, traveling, going on vacation, celebrating the holidays, all of that, like that's metabolism. That's like, that's being able to move and function without pain. That's quality of life. That's living life to its fullest. And so, I mean, that's why I'm so excited about this, and I can't wait to get my own. Like, I'm all scheduled for Irvine. All right. So let's do it. Let's get a base layer. I finally am, like, done having children, and like I said, I'm gonna wait till I'm, like, actually done breastfeeding so I can get, like, just, like, the exact base of, like, Okay, let's optimize and see where we can go from here.
It's to get you to that top 25% of those 4 metrics, and you'll be, when they start having kids, you'll be
ready to rock
fine.
And roll.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here and explaining DEXA and DexaFit and what we can do to kind of track our health from a real standpoint, not just what the scale says, and not to be discouraged, but to be motivated to make real change to prevent osteoporosis, osteopenia, hold on to our lean muscle mass, maximize our VO2 max. Like, this is all so important, and it's totally accessible, which I love, thanks to you. So thank you for being here and sharing your story as an entrepreneur and a dad, and also just a person on his own health journey as well.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
It was. Where can people follow you? Where can they learn about DexaFit? Where can they go get a scan themselves?
DexaFit.com.
Okay.
That's your best source. And we've got locations just about, I think, 40 states here in the U.S. If you're overseas, we've got a couple in Canada, Singapore, Hong Kong, South Africa, and Europe, a couple in Europe. So again, we're just I'd put it out there to, if you're a doctor, clinic, health performance center, whatever, how that's what we're trying to do, help grow. We create a significantly better experience for you. If you're using DEXA or you want to bring DEXA or VO2 max into your business or practice, let us know. That's another thing that we do, is we really try to, and we stay in our lane. We're just trying to squeeze the most out we can of these tests to give these insights to people. So awesome. Well, knowledge is power, and what we track, we can change. So thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Be Well by Kelly LeVeque podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review in your favorite podcast app and subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. We're also excited to share that full-length video episodes are now on YouTube and Spotify, so you can watch along as you listen. The best way to support me and the show is by sharing it with your friends and family. Your recommendations make all the difference. This is a Wellness Loud production, produced by Drake Peterson and Cass Balding. The video is recorded by Luke Rodriguez and edited by Jesse Trout. Sound mixing is by Mike Fry. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical or mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or healthcare team first. Shout out to the Newport Beach Pendry for hosting us. I'm so grateful to record in such a beautiful space that truly elevates the podcast experience for myself and my guests. From the stunning design to their incredible hospitality, it's a perfect setting for meaningful conversations and creative energy. Hey, thanks, Pendry.